There's the got it. Come on. There's the got it. Okay, we are live on YouTube. Great. So, obviously we've started that. As we go through, you guys, if you have any questions at all, don't save them to the end because we'll all forget what they are and it can be pertinent to it. I've got a couple co-hosts, Al and Bob, and you guys can monitor if we have any open mic situations. But also if you guys see participants raise their hand, let me know, and you guys feel free to unmute yourself and speak out too. We don't have necessarily an unruly group, and we're only at 25 today. All right. So it's interesting. We had a discussion with some real techie guys here out at our Apple user group out here. And I've always said that, well, so now when you get backup hard drives, they could be solid state or they could be a spinning hard drive. In the past, when your time machine drive got full or too old, you would move on to a new one and you'd put it up on the shelf and you'd archive it. Some people also do copies of their just of their disk to have as an archive. And everyone should do 3-2-1. In fact, I should have made a slide of 3-2-1. But what 3-2-1 is, any important file, and usually photos is one of the most important files you have, but documents, anything, old tax forms, many things like that. Anything that's worth saving should go 3-2-1. And what 3-2-1 means is you have 3 copies of every file. It's on 2 different types of media, which means the device type that it is, and one should be off-site. So I'm going to briefly go through the 2 ways to accomplish that. The old way would be so first of all, your main hard drive on your computer, and the way I call it hard drive, they're solid state drives now, but your main internal storage on your computer should always have one of those copies, because that's the one you use. It's the one that gets sent to the cloud and everything else. And then I used to say have 2 external time machine backups. So 3 copies of the file is on the 2 external drives and the internal computer. That's 3. The 2 is 2 types of media, because like your computer has a solid state, these are spinning drives. Then the one being offsite is, I would always recommend that you took one of your external hard drives and put it more than 10 blocks from your house. And I just say 10 blocks offhandedly because realistically, if a fire like the Paradise Fire comes through, where I knew of 2 people that they had 8 minutes to get out of their house, okay? Or, if you're in low-lying areas in Sacramento, it could be a flood. So it's great to have 2 external backups, but if you're in the same spot, someone breaks into your house, they steal them, and it's not so much the data theft kind of thing. It's really more about, how do I get going, because they also stole my computer. So that's still a viable alternative, but things have changed a bit. Oh, and by the way, you would rotate those and you could put it in a safe deposit box or at an office or someone else's house. And again, it needs to be a little bit far away from you. Anyway, but not so far it's inconvenient. But now with the advent of online storage and iCloud, there's another way to accomplish this. And you still would want one external backup. And the reason for that is when you buy a new computer, it makes it really easy to bring that data in from the external backup, and you have it there and it's current. Now, iCloud is not a backup. So it will have copies of your data. And in my mind, if you have a external time machine backup and you have the drive on your computer, the internal storage with the file, it's okay if you have sent your documents and desktop and your photos are on the cloud. It's not a true backup, because a true backup lets you go back, 3 years, 3 months, whatever it is, to see an old file. Where on the cloud, it's not. But for recovery purposes, to get you back to where you were, that what happens on the cloud works. Your iOS devices do back up on the cloud, and it's no longer that you plug it into the computer and back it up. But I do then, and for instance, on my iOS devices, because photos are important to me, I have free Google Photos and I use Amazon Photos, and all my photos get sent to there too. I never look at them, everything, but that's part of Amazon Prime. It's a free thing, so it's free storage in case something happened to my iOS device. But with the advent of less expensive solid state drives, some people are using those as time machine backups. And realistically, you don't need a fast drive for time machine backups, because the first backup takes a while, and after that, it simply does incremental backups. So you don't need speed. Now, a solid state drive is nice, because I know a lot of you that you've got your laptop and you've got a drive hanging off of it, and then you want to move it. Well, a spinning drive like this should never be moved. In fact, if you set it down really hard, you could damage it. I, in fact, did that one time, and it just, anyway. Solid states aren't there, but solid state drives are not without problems. Solid state drives can wear out from read and write, and they can fail. But the biggest problem with solid state drives is, in the future, if you take a solid state drive and put it on the shelf in an archive purpose, so not an active backup that you're using all the time, in an archive, after a year's time of having no power to it, it can lose the data that's on a solid state drive. Now, remember, in your computer, the solid state drive always has some sort of power, or it will at least once a month or something like that. So it's not an issue in that, but it would be for archival purposes. The other caveat is things can happen to spinning hard drives like we've been used to, and there are places that can pull it off, but it's a backup. And the reason you want to have two backups is if one of your backup fails and within close time, your computer storage fails, you've at least got one backup going. So you have to balance it. There's no need to use a solid state for an external unless you're keeping it hooked to your computer and you go around. And by the way, there's a real good one, Crucial, which has always been a memory supplier, has less expensive and really good solid state drives. And I use those to back up my photo library when I'm traveling. And what I do when I travel is I make sure I have a rolling backup, and I do not keep it in the same spot when I'm going through airports than my laptop, because that way, if something happens to my laptop, it gets stolen. I have this backup drive that's somewhere else, either in my carry-on or what, but I don't always, but I try to keep it not in the same bag or the same location. In the hotel, yeah, it's in the same location, but I'm talking about flying and the chance of it being lost or stolen. So, and actually another thing too is it's a good opportunity to put an AirTag on it. So any questions on backup? Because I just can't stress enough how important it is. And I always throw this screen up there, but I wanted to tell you kind of how things have changed a little bit in the dynamics and because of solid state. And it's not, don't be afraid. If you want to use a solid state, it's really good. You can do it. But just remember, in the weird case of where you're really trying to archive old stuff, it could possibly die on the shelf. But I have to point out that a spinning hard drive is more likely to die. And, so it's, just remember this, any storage device can go bad. That's why you want to have backup. Mary, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I have some old external hard drives. And even if they have lost the data, would it hurt to plug them in and check? And are they still, if they still work, are they still okay? Or do I need to get updated ones? I guess there's a lot of questions in there, but.
So these are spinning hard drives.
Yeah.
They can sit on the shelf for a long time. And in fact, you're more likely for the drive to break if you fire it up. It's when they fire up that's always the big thing. So more than likely, you don't need that data. So don't check on it. But if at some time you did have to go back to it, wait till you try recover it. They're fine on the shelf. It's the solid state drives that over time can do it. A solid state drive, if you're using it for archival purposes, plug it in every 6 months because it's not spinning. So it's not likely to fail from that. And the other thing you got to remember is there's the chip in the solid state drive or the platter in the spinning drive. But what's in between there is a control board or a board that takes the power and puts it and does all that. And those can fail too. So, and in that case, if it was a spinning hard drive and the board failed, we would just plug it into another one just like it and you could do it. But I appreciate that effort, but I would say you're more likely to create a problem by going and checking on them and stuff rather than let them sit there and see if they're needed. And if one of these archive ones doesn't hook up, there's ways to extract the drive and try putting in another board and see if it works. But you're probably never going to need it, but it's nice to have it back there. So, and what I do when I decommission a time machine disk, because a time machine disk will get full, but then it starts overwriting the oldest deleted data. So you don't have to retire when it gets full because time machine deals with it. But for me, for archive purposes, because I have old laptops that are in there, things like that, I don't ever hard drives are cheap. I don't let my time machine ever get too full because that way, and I put the start and the end dates on a little tape I write on it with a Sharpie, what the start date and the end date was, and then I put them away and then I probably never see them again and who knows where they are. But in peace of mind, even though I can't find them. So any other good questions? Any other on that? Al, you have any input? Bob, anybody?
I like those SSDs. They're snappy.
Oh, they're great. Yeah. And it's just amazing. And look at the crucial ones. I've got a couple of them. I think I got a 4 terabyte. And oh my gosh, it's great. So we're going to talk about medical ID. This, I think, is very, very important. In fact, I've started it out here at Lincoln Hills. We have, remember, we used to have triage set up for MacNexus. We have a thing called an open lab, and people come and they sign up and wait. And what we do when they come, we're now checking their phone to see if they have their medical ID filled out. And medical ID is part of the health app. And this is the health app. And let's everybody right now. Okay, so I have to describe this first on your phone. You can get into your phone with your biometrics, either Face ID or the touch. So when we do this, you need to turn your phone so it's not facing your face because it will unlock. And on phones that have Touch ID, don't use the finger that you have on your fingerprint. So I turn my phone away from my face. I'm going to describe Face ID first. So I turn it sideways so I can barely see the screen. And I tap the screen or hit the sleep wake button. And then I slide up from the bottom. Everybody do that. And then your number should come up. Put in your passcode, but don't put in your passcode. And if you'll notice in the lower left, actually, you know what? Let's display my, so in the lower left, it says emergency. And if you tap emergency, and in the lower left, you have something that says medical ID, it means you have it on. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. But if you don't have medical ID, you go into, and these are the directions. Now, I have put this PDF on how to do it on the homepage for MacNexus. And hang on. Come on, Ken, type. Right here under subscription calendar, it says set up medical ID. And over there where the PDF is, you simply click on it and you'll get this page. So I didn't talk to the board on that. I did that this morning because this is a huge deal. Now, what happens with medical ID, and Al's already linked it in there, what happens when you fill out your medical ID, you can put a lot of your information in. Obviously, it's a great thing too. You would put in if you have any allergies, you know, if you're on blood thinners, things like that. Just a side note, I want a first responder to kind of think I'm an okay guy. So when it says in there, since I have no allergies, I say that I say none, but I say I'm allergic to bullets and bombs. And I think everybody's allergic to bullets and bombs. So, and then somebody made a comment to me one time, and you should put in there bullets, bombs, and bad beer. But anyway, the medical ID, you fill it out in the health app, and this tells you what to do. And then, actually, I'll go back to the keynote, which has it on one page. And then the last thing is you say it's okay to display it on the lock screen. So on the lock screen, you come in, a first responder picks up your phone, you're unconscious, they grab it, they go and they can get in and they say your medical, there, my watch just did the stupid, it was recording, not recording, it was transcribing what I was saying. Yeah. Anyway, they can see your information, and then when you put in there contacts, people to be contacted in your medical ID, even though your phone's locked, they can tap on there and call whoever it is on your medical list in there without unlocking the phone. And first responders all know how to do this. This has been around for quite a while, and I just, you know, we're not getting any younger, and things happen, and I really encourage it. And then the tip of the day is, how many times have you been in a situation, whether it be a restaurant or you're at a meeting and there's a phone that's been left? Well, most of the time, if you pick up the phone and press either the home button or the button on the side to activate Siri, you can say, and I'll do it on mine, Actually, let me raise the volume here. Whose phone is this?
I believe this iPhone belongs to Ken.
Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, so it said, I believe this iPhone belongs to Ken. And that's if you've filled out the My Card, if you have that in there, or just basically in the contacts, you have your own one. The other thing is, you could say, pick up the phone and say, call my wife, call my mother, something like that through Siri. And if they have it, so it's not locked up, it may call someone else. But the best one is, whose phone is this? And, you know, and I mean, all our cases look the same and all that. So that's just a quick little tip of the day before we get into it. Please, 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 later today, go in and see if you have medical, fill out your medical ID. And then the last part is, so it'll show on the lock screen. It's critical.
Hey, Ken, is
Yeah.
there a way you can get the last name? Like yours just said, I believe this belongs to Ken. I tried mine. It belongs to Bev. Is there a way you can get it to say the last name?
I don't know. I don't think so. And because it's really not, it's not something I set up. It just has to do with, you have what's called, like in contacts, you know, where you have your autofill. I think for privacy concerns that they wouldn't. But yeah.
Hopefully your name isn't a common first name.
Right. Well, but in groups, you know, you can say, hey, did Bob leave a phone back there? Well, the Bobs are going to check, you know. So, and then in a case like that, so they're not scamming you, make them unlock the phone. So with Touch ID or with their face. Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, this is just a public service announcement since we're talking.
That's what we're doing. Good.
Since we're talking medical, I was told that I was allergic to penicillin because I had a reaction as a child. And so for most of my life, I've been taking alternatives to penicillin, which are much harsher on your body. Well, it turns out you can go in and get an allergy test. And most people who were allergic as children have outgrown it. So if you're in that boat, I suggest you try it, unless you know, like certain people are real clear they're allergic to it. But if you had it as a child, get it checked, because you can get milder drugs as needed. Okay,
Good.
that's my public service announcement.
And we're supposed to say like, oh, this medical advice, blah, blah, blah. No, but actually, you know what, Mary, you brought up another good point since we're on this. Let's say you are allergic to something, whether, you know, penicillin or certain medications, you can put that in your medical ID. But when I was on blood thinners and I was skiing, which is not necessarily the way to do things.
Yeah.
I got, you know, they have the medical alert bracelets, which are great. But I went to, let's see if I can pull it up. And in fact, it's funny because I just got the thing, they got a sale this weekend. Get my ID. So, yeah, so this is, I ended up getting this, and this little band goes over your watch band. Or you can get a bracelet that has it. But for instance, on my ski helmet, well, they gave me a card for my phone, and there's no monthly fee on this. I don't pay for their one. It was just, you fill it out, and what happens is it creates a QR code, and that QR code, so when you flip this band over, it has a QR code on it. So anybody with a phone goes to that, and they can see the information you put in there. Remember, anyone can see it, but it's a critical situation. So it creates this little barcode, and you can have that in your wallet. And like I said, I had it on my bike helmet. I had it on my ski helmet, and I had it in my wallet, and then I had a little band like this that went over my band, or they make a wristband. Now there's one called, I think it's called Road ID, that a lot of bicycle riders use. And what it is, it's like a medical alert one that says what your stuff is on it, and it bends around the band. But in this case, I would go in to I had my own quote web page with them, and so I could change if I had, let's say I'm off blood thinners, but I'm allergic to penicillin, and then all of a sudden I get back on blood thinners. So you could change it yourself, and it real time updates. The problem with these other ones is your conditions can change. So I'm glad you mentioned that, having people do it. Oh, and actually I didn't even realize this. You can put a second one on here, like epilepsy. You can add a band to it. I guess it'd be like a charm bracelet. But anyway, this medical ID band, you just flip it over and it's got it. And then you can manage it on the phone and all that. And I think it's still free, but it's getmyid.com, getmyid.com. And I'm sure you got the link already, or I can send it to you, but I don't know if it's still free. I believe that it is. What they did is they had a second tier you could do if you wanted to have all your medical records there and everything. But these days, that's not really what you want. It was just they can go in the thing and do it. And actually, here's the.
What's it called again, Ken?
It's my ID, but it's getmyid.com.
You already posted that, Al.
Okay, I thought so.
So here's the bracelets you can do. They make it kind of cool. But let me look where the stickers are and stuff.
That's
All
cool.
product. Yeah, and I think it's still free. So there's the ID sleeve for the watch, and there you can see it flips over and it's just got the barcode on it. So remember, the barcode goes to the page that you manage. So it's live. You can change your conditions and stuff. And realistically, rather than a monthly, what they're making their money on is the product itself. And it took a lot of search for me, and I just didn't like the Road ID one. Oh, and here, so this is the sticker pack I got. So I had the big sticker on my helmet, and I put the small sticker. I have a pocket, not really a wallet. It's a money clip thing with a card holder on the one side. So and it's got a clear pouch for my driver's license. So I put this sticker on my driver's license. So it was seen the whole time. And it's what, $9.95 for a sticker. So yeah, it's expensive, but so anyway, I would have never remembered doing this, but with Mary's thing about the allergy to penicillin, and then the cool thing is, like in Mary's case, if it turns out she's not allergic to it anymore, she simply goes into her page and manages it. I just want to see. I don't want to waste everybody's time here, but I believe that it's still free for just like one page worth of information. And again, it's like a link, and you manage it, but they store it. Okay.
It sounds like it could be life-saving. So $10 or whatever seems like it.
Yeah, whichever
well
the
worth
things
it.
are, and yeah.
And
and part of the reason I did this is some of those others had monthly fees and stuff like that. So see, again, what it is, they're selling you the product rather than the service, I believe. Okay, again, getmyid.com. All right. Okay, so traveling a lot, and I spoke of this quickly at the meeting, but I just can't speak highly enough of this device. So I got this mainly for air flights because there's some decent, the the screens in the planes, sometimes there's some pretty decent movies and the ones that you haven't seen yet or something. But the problem is you either get those little, they give you the free earbuds and they're not so good and not comfortable, or some of the planes have an over the ear, you know, they'll let you use those or they'll rent them to you. But I travel with the big over the ear AirPods Max, and they're noise canceling, but they're Bluetooth. Now I paid like, now what was it? Did we pay $59 back then for that cable, or 79? Apple had a special cable that allowed you to plug in to a regular mini jack, and then it went to the thing. So now I'm not wireless. Well, the AirFly is a Bluetooth transmitter. So anywhere that you have an outlet that's the mini jack, it goes to the AirFly. The AirFly has a rechargeable battery in it, and it sends it to your Bluetooth headphones, or it could send it to Bluetooth in your car. It can be anywhere that has a mini jack. And I'll give you an example. Back in May, when I went to I went to do a car rally, and I stayed around and went to the Indy 500. Well, it's really loud at the Indy 500, which is great because you're at a race, but I wanted to hear the local radio, the track radio. So I had a little just $5 AM FM radio that had a headphone jack. And what I did is I put the AirFly in it, and I could hear that radio through my headphone jack, or my AirPods Max, and they were noise canceling. So I still heard the cars, but not as loud as they would have been. And another application of this is when you're traveling and you have group tours, a lot of times they have these whisper devices that you'll have the tour guide has a microphone, and they talk to you, and they give you get one little earbud with it, and you can hear these people. Or I do a lot of hop on, hop off buses, and those have a little audio jack because they talk about a tour, you know, where you are along the tour. And the problem is you go to get out of your seat and you yank that thing out of your ear and all that. I put the AirFly on that. The big problem is don't forget it. So you got to do that. But anyway, I love it. And here are the prices and the models, and I'll explain the differences. And here are some of which, oh, and by the way, mine's set up to do two different ones of my headphones. It does my AirPods Pro, and it does my big AirPods Max. So situations are, oh, and by the way, it supports the Pro supports two of them. So let's say you're on a plane and you and your traveling companion want to look at an iPad, it would Bluetooth both of them in together. Right here's the good example with the airplane where it plugs into theirs. I will put a little caveat on the airplane. Many of the airplanes have these two jacks. It's right and left. So if you really want to make sure you get stereo, they make a little adapter for that they used to do in the airlines or headphones had. But it still works on one side. But if you get that little jack, I keep it in my case with my AirPods Max. So the $34.99, and by the way, the AirFly Pro is available in the Apple Store, and Amazon has them and everything else. And the differences are, for $34.99, you only get 20 hours of battery life, and it can only pair with one device at a time. So you wouldn't be able to do the sharing like this. If you go $10 more, you get the Duo that supports two simultaneously. But for me, what it does is I don't wear my AirPods Pro in my ear and then put the cans over it. So I don't need both of them at the same time. But what it means is I don't have to repair them. But I got the Pro because it has an additional feature for $10 more that has the dual. It's got a little longer battery life, and it allows you to take, and instead of it being a transmitter of Bluetooth, it can be a receiver of Bluetooth. And that would mean, like, let's say you had you're in a boat and the stereo in the boat isn't Bluetooth, but it's got a little input jack. You put it in that, and then you can go, as the guy's doing here in the lower right, you can go the from your phone, you Bluetooth the music over to that input device. So they're great. I absolutely love it. What I do is, because sometimes I go on very long flights, and actually it's funny, I never knew it was 25 hours, but I have it set up so I can even use it. It's USB-C as the charging, and most of the time when I'm flying, I'll have it hooked up to power because it's coming from a stationary thing, and that way it's fully charged all the time. Any
Ken,
questions? Yeah, go ahead, Bev.
a question. I just caught a glimmer of this with the idea you mentioned about, like, when you're on a tour and they have those little things that hook over your ears. I wear hearing aids, and so it's there's always the problem of, one, maybe losing the hearing aid if I hook it on. But is there a way that this would go in? And my hearing aids will pair to Apple and are Bluetooth. So is this something that I could get the audio tour from them with and still keep my hearing aids in?
Probably. And I say probably because it all depends how Bluetooth is handled. I mean, cars are different and all that. But since you have Bluetooth to your hearing aids, I think you could. Now, the nice thing is, and it's, you'd have to try it. I mean, that's all there is to it. And, get it from somewhere where you can return it if it didn't work. But I think that's an ideal situation for it.
So you would take the little voice box thingy and plug it into this, and then this device Bluetooths it up to the thing in your ear?
So, yeah. So you have the thing you wear around your neck that has a headphone jack in it.
Yeah.
You put it in that, and then it transmits. And a little tip on that, because this thing, when you turn it on and you hold the button, you maybe turn it on or off. The first thing I do is I use the ones they give you just to make sure, okay, I'm hearing sound. And then I go ahead and put the AirFly in it. And then I know, okay, I press and hold the button. Now it works. It takes a second and then it goes. So it should, but it all depends on your hearing aids and how they handle Bluetooth. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Ken.
And by the way, on the tour, just really quick, one thing. If you're going around and you're doing a city tour or something like that, I always just use one AirPod Pro in my ear, because you want to hear other stuff. Because with the noise canceling, you're out there. It's different on a plane. Use noise canceling all the time, but if you're walking around, you want to be able to hear cars, people on bicycles. Like, God, over in Europe, the bike lanes are banned. You got to stay out of the bike lane or you're going to get mowed down. So I would only put one AirPod Pro in. The other nice thing about that is AirPod Pros are good for 5 hours, but if you put one in one ear and you're on a 5-hour tour, well, then you could just pop the other one in your other ear, put the one that you were using back in your case, and it will recharge, and you will actually get 24 hours worth of use that way. Al, please go ahead.
Yeah, the difficulty I've had in the past sometimes with pairing or keeping a connection, sometimes it's as much a function of what generation of Bluetooth the device supports. The current one is 5.0, but a lot of devices, for whatever reason, they may not support. They're like 4.0 or below, and so your mileage may vary depending on what your device supports. Something you might want to check out with the manufacturer.
Well, now again, remember that the airplane and all those other places, you're not using any of their Bluetooth. You're hooking in. I want to just, and and Al's perfectly right, but I don't want to confuse people. It's how you're going to hear it and how recent it is on Bluetooth. This handles most flavors of Bluetooth. The problem is the protocols in like the hearing aid situation, and that's why I kind of hedged my bets. But virtually any listening device that works with Bluetooth, like if your phone can send Bluetooth to your headset, things like that, this will work because this covers most of them. And it has nothing to do with the airline or the bus you're on or the car you're in. The only time that changes is if you, again, it's the receiving of it. So the other, let's see, yeah, and I've been really happy. And this is from a company called 12 South. And they're big, they do a lot of Mac stuff. And they started with making stands for laptops to sit on your desk. 12 South's been around for quite a while. So, all right, let's get into the meat of the subject. So set your watches, get ready. September 12th, 10 days from now at 10 a.m. It's not Wanderlust, it's Wonderlust. And it's really kind of interesting. And I don't know, but the main thing is going to be iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Pro, possibly iPhone Ultra. And Al, get ready if you want, because I know you keep up on this. I'm going to go through just a little bit here, and then anybody that has any information, rumors, or anything, I think you can share it with the group, because at this point it's just rumors until September 12th. So iPhone 15, it's our yearly update to the phone. And there's some features on it that are pretty interesting. On the Pro level, we've always had this little silent and the silent switch on the side. It may no longer become a switch, it'll be more of a button. And just like the Ultra on the watch, they're going to turn it into the ability to do a one click. In other words, if you wanted it to fire up Siri, you would click that. If you wanted to fire up, you can set this to do certain things. If you wanted that to launch the Photos app, the Cameras app, boom, you hit that, it fires up. So it's pretty good. You'd still have volume up and down. And by the way, they used to be, the first iPhones were plastic, or aluminum were the first ones, aluminum with plastic. Then they went plastic for a long time. Then because of recyclability and everything, they were aluminum for quite a while. And then more recently, they've been stainless steel, and indications are that it will be titanium. One thing with titanium, other than painting it, they might not have as vibrant of colors on it. So anyway, it's the iPhone 15. Indications are that, first off, in the Pro, they're probably going to up the amount of storage that the lowest model gets. They're going to double the storage, 256, right, Al? Or it used to be 128, or it's 256 up to 512.
I believe so.
And so that would justify the $100 increase, but they have, I don't think they're going to increase it. Memory price is okay. So that's going to be the specs of it. The other internal memory, the RAM, so to speak, will be there. And indications are that the bezel will be slimmer around the whole phone, which kind of gives you a little bit bigger viewing area. But I'm going to talk about one of the things that excites me the most that I hope it comes with. And first I should show you here. This is typically how the lens in your phone works. There are elements to the lens. So even on a camera lens, so like Al asked earlier, what lens did I use? I used a 50 to 400. 400, it might even be a 500. I think it's 400. Yeah, 50 to 400 Tamron. And it has elements in the lens, and it makes the lens heavy. But the thing is, you have multiple lenses, and those are ground so fine when you think about it. That's why we have a camera bump, first of all. And there is talk that the camera bump may be a little bigger. But these lens elements, they can only fit so much in there. So they're going to do a periscope. And if you think about a periscope, I'll explain it because I know everybody is envisioning. Well, a periscope is where you look in one end, it reflects off here and looks out here. Here's the eye at the end, goes here. And, you know, on a submarine, they do it, or we'd have a little fort around it. So the periscope on the phone is going to look just like this. So you've got this little attachment on the phone, and the periscope will make it so it can zoom in more. So it's not going to look like that. Here's how the periscope works on a phone. In fact, I'm going to take my, hopefully I'll make it so you can see my cursor a little better. There you go. Do you see that better now? My cursor?
Yes.
Okay. So here is a typical lens where you have multiple lens elements, and on the phone you have a sensor. So the sensor is like on the back of the, on an old film camera, the sensor would be the film. The light comes in, it comes through a bunch of lenses, it might even come through a filter, and then it hits for a split second the film in the back and exposes the film. Digital cameras have a sensor on the back, and a sensor is just a light sensor, and essentially all cameras use it, and you know, video cameras, etc. And it picks up the light that hits it, and that's what you see down here in the lower left corner. But again, the limitations are here, the thickness of the phone. So the periscope concept is really intriguing because we can make a periscope that can go down the length of the phone, thereby being able to put in more lens elements, because by putting in more lens elements, you can do a zoom. You can zoom out farther. The current phone is a 3X. There are zooms out there. Samsung has one that is 10X. And when I say X, if you have a 3X like we do now, and it zooms in, if you go to 6X, it zooms in twice as much. So in other words, you can see farther. In fact, a 6X zoom would be very close to the 400 lens I used to get those Africa shots. Now, the limitations on phones versus higher end cameras. Apple does the magic of software, but the problem is the size of the sensor means a lot. And so a regular camera would have a larger sensor, and a larger sensor captures more light, but it doesn't necessarily make it higher resolution. For instance, the iPhone currently, the iPhone Pro Max or the Pro, if you use the 1X, it's a 48 megapixel image, which is huge. And then Apple does some wonderful tricks with it. But this is what it looks like on a periscope on the phone. There is also another way where they could do it and put a second prism down at this end and then direct it down to a sensor. But what they're trying to accomplish with a periscope, just like this periscope gives you length between what you see, and it allows you to have a tube in there in between. This would give you length, but how they do it is internally in the phone. I have another image of it that's a little bit easier to see. And what happens is when light hits a prism, this was weird. I thought it would be 45 degrees, but they say it's a 46. The light comes in, hits here, comes down, hits here, and then hits your eye. With the one that we just saw, the light would come in, hit the prism, and then the sensor was right here. So that's one way to do it. In this case, you wouldn't need the extra prism. And these prisms, so anytime you encounter glass, there is a little bit of loss of light. And so the idea is don't do too much, but even happens with the lenses. So anyway, it's pretty technical. It won't look like that, but that's the first thing people think of. This gives you a real good idea of the two. You can see you have the two sensors. That's one thing. There'll be an additional because there's no way to make one sensor do it all, because this one is vertical, but the other thing is you'd have to, if you wanted to have it down and lay flat like this one, you would need a second prism that shot down, but then the problem was none of the other lenses could use it. So we don't know what it's going to be on. The talk is that it will only be on the 15 Pro, the larger version of the 15 Pro, because there's more room, or there is talk of an Ultra, but I haven't heard much about that lately. Al, what do you say on Periscope and the Ultra and that? What do you got? You're muted, buddy. You're muted.
I think naming conventions. It's I'm not sure if Apple's going to differentiate. Create another tier, I guess, an Ultra as opposed to the Pro or Pro Max. Just 10 days away, we'll find out and stuff. The scuttlebutt is that whatever that thing is, they're going to charge us charge us more money, but
yeah, they're saying 100 to 200, and
yeah.
Realize these sensors are not cheap. These sensors are made by Sony, and they are it's magic what they do.
Yeah.
And then all these lenses.
Yeah. I think if they differentiate it enough and the capability is a significant jump, there'll be hardcore enthusiasts that'll embrace it, and it's one way to subsidize the R&D for this stuff. And I would assume hopefully if a couple of years on down the road, it'll filter down to other models.
Every year it drops down a little,
yeah.
And then they come out with something new,
Yeah. It's exciting. It'll be the next jump. The iPhones have just been iterative,
right.
And to generate that buzz and that excitement, this could be something that really, reignites people's enthusiasm for continuing to pay the big bucks.
And for me as a travel photographer, I'm shooting currently over 95% of my photos with an iPhone.
Yeah.
And I would love to lessen that. And the big thing is, just like those pictures in Africa, they wouldn't be as crisp, but to be able to get in on them when you need to, because a lot of times it's the quick shot.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
It's amazing in what Apple does with software.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Keith, you have a question or a comment? Go right ahead.
I have a question. I think this periscope lens thing is an interesting idea, but in addition to making the lens 10x or 6x or whatever they got to do, I'd like to see them put the bigger sensor on that lens. I think it's the 1x now is a 40 megapixels or 48, but the bigger one is only 12. So I'd like to see the bigger sensor on there as well as the higher magnification lens.
So yeah, but remember, it's okay. They could put a huge sensor in there, but our phones are going to grow in size. And I agree that would be nice. In fact, Sony makes the Xperia phone, which is an Android phone that has a heck of a camera and sensor and stuff in it. But it's Keith, you and I, Al, Bob, Randy, the photographers want that, but most of the general public doesn't. And they, it's getting there. The sensor's really good. And the thing is, they do tricks with computational photography, it's called. And Apple is so good at doing tricks with it that I want a large mirrorless full frame, a full format camera that uses Apple's software, you know. But yeah, I mean, I want that too, Keith, and I wish I could, but I'm still remarkably impressed with the amount of light that gets in this thing and how they handle it. So yeah, I definitely agree. And you know what? There's some talk. I've been listening to some podcasts too where APS crop sensors are not that far away from full frame. So but crop sensors are still bigger than these. And you got to remember too, Keith, the other trade-off is the larger the sensor, the more power it draws. And battery life is always a huge consideration. So good comment. And I don't disagree.
Okay.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay. So again, that was just a different look at it. So the new design in the 15, and Al will correct me if it's just in the Pro, but I think it's the 15 all, because the difference between in the 14, the difference between the 14 and the 14 Pro was 2 lenses versus 3. So you had a 0.5 ultra wide angle and a 1 wide angle lens on the 14. Then the 14 Pro had a 3x zoom in addition to that. So new design, in other words, a little closer, the bezel and the elimination of the button the switch and making it a button. And I'm sure part of the reason they're doing that too is for waterproofness. Titanium case, one really big thing that everybody's going to get used to, and I think it's time. Instead of the lightning connector, it will use USB-C, which is what the majority of the iPads use. It's what the rest of the world uses. And part of the reason that Apple went with this is because Europe requires that of any phone going there. And, you know, regulators know better than tech people, of course, on things that should happen. So anyway, but I think USB-C is great. Obviously, it will come with a cable. Most of us have chargers that have USB-Cs on it. All the Macs come with USB-C now. So it's the standard, and it's synonymous with USB-C Thunderbolt 4. Thunderbolt 4 is Apple's version of it, and it's faster. But for charging and everything else, USB-C. Oh, and it doesn't mention here, the wireless charging on the phone is going to be a new version of they'll still have MagSafe, but which XI, the charge QI, whatever it is, the charging we had before, it's gone to 2.0 on that, and it will make it so, and then you can get new chargers that'll wirelessly charge it faster. But one of the biggest things, and believe me, Apple will be hyping it like crazy, but it is a very big deal. It will be, as far as I know, it's the first device, but it's the A17, it's the chip inside. And what that is it's built on what's called a 3 nanometer in the chip. And that means the chip height on it. So currently the phones were 5, and all the rest of the world is 5 or 7. And what happens in a transistor is what it is, and the chip is a transistor. It's got billions of transistors in it, and they're all connected. And what happens is the die, and this is called a 3 nanometer die size. So they reduce the size of the chip in thickness, not around the outside, but in thickness. And what that is, it's kind of like if you think about you ran a wire, an extension cord from your house to your neighbor's house. Well, the electrons flow across there at this, well, you could send something very fast, but if it was right next to you, it's going to go faster. So the shallower die size on the chip makes everything in the chip much faster. And going from 5 nanometers, it was a huge deal to go to 7. Most places are in 7 nanometer because they can't get it down to 5. And then now Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC, and Apple's the first ones to get it in mass quantities, has a 3 nanometer chip. So it's much faster, but 2 other things. It puts out less heat, and being that it puts out less heat, it has much better power conservation, so you have longer battery life. So it's a huge deal, and you won't see it in the lower phones. And I don't know, I'm not positive you'll see it in the non-pro version. We don't know yet, but we'll see. But it is a big deal for battery life, warmth, but just the phone itself will react. We talked about the periscope camera, the LiDAR on the back of your phone. You have LiDAR on the higher end phones, and LiDAR is a light diode that we can't see it, but it goes out and it is really good for sensing distances. It's like radar, but it's with light, and LiDAR senses distances. And that's used when you're making a photo, whether you're using, you want to have bokeh, or you want the camera to focus. The LiDAR does that and makes it focus really well. It'll have upgraded bands of 5G. It's got Wi-Fi 6E, which in the past, I think we only had Wi-Fi 6. I talked about the action button on the side like that. And of course, longer battery life. Rumors are the battery will be slightly larger, but we don't know. But the battery life's been pretty good, but going with 3 nanometer will make a huge difference in battery life. Keith, go ahead.
Have you heard of something called Moore's Law?
Yeah,
Okay.
Gordon Moore.
Yeah, he was the guy, one of the founders of Intel, and his
Yep.
his law said that every 2 years you'll double the amount of transistors you can put on a given size chip. And so far that's
No, he said double speed.
all right. I thought he meant double, I don't know, whatever it is. But that's been okay for the last 40 years or so, but I think eventually you're going to reach a limit of that, in which case you can't get much more in it.
Yeah, so what that means is, and he was first with Fairchild Semiconductor, who invented the solid state transistor, and then he and 3 or 5 other guys, who actually, a guy up here in Lincoln Hills used to work with those guys at Fairchild, and I skied with the guy. He's 82 now, so he's not skiing anymore, but it's great to go through. If you ever get a chance and you're ever in Mountain View and you have any extra time, go visit. You can do it in an hour, but you should take 2. The Computer History Museum. And they go in the Computer History Museum. They start with the abacus and the slide rule and take us all the way through to current self-driving cars. And it is just absolutely amazing. It's a great thing. Find out what their events are like too, because they have speakers and different things like that. So I encourage it. It's not expensive, and you can go through it, and it's there. The stuff they have there is amazing. But back to the Moore's Law, which would, and I thought originally it was 18 months, but it morphed, and it would say that the speed of the chips, and again, what increases the speed of the chip is like this smaller die size and things like that. When you look at what chips were eventually, remember, before chips, they were tubes. Okay, so when they went to chips, obviously it doesn't take as much energy and things, and it gets faster. But the chips have gotten so small, and Moore's Law unfortunately had to kind of morph a little bit because they couldn't get the processor speed on the chip any faster. But what they did then is, now you have tandem computing, in that you can have 2 chips. and the two chips work with one another. They're not standalone. So basically you're doubling the speed by doubling the chips. And and there's still been speed increases, but I think at some point you kind of reach this theoretical limit on speed, and we're getting really geeky, but anyway, it's amazing. And if you think about it, if you have a current Mac that's using the M1 or the M2 chip, it's essentially the same chip. It's like the A14 that was in the phone used in the laptop, and that's why the battery life is so good. And I mean, they're on steroids and other stuff, but they're the basis of the same chip that's in the phone. And that's how powerful the phone chip is, let alone putting it in a computer, and it's the fastest production computers that are out there. So it's pretty amazing. Just absolutely blows everything away. So iPhone 15, part of this is if you're gonna upgrade. Oh, in fact, actually, let's take it to Al and Bob first. Let's talk more about technical things you've heard, and then I'm going to talk about the plans and how to buy and what to look for and stuff. So go ahead, Al, if you have any input on anything that because I mean, he does such a great job and keeps on top of the rumors. And then if Bob has anything or anybody else.
I don't have anything more to contribute. I think you're pretty thorough. Everything, just rumors every day. I think the closer we get, probably the more accurate they can be. Who knows how, what stories Apple allows to leak out or strategically placed, or as the lead up to the event is upon us.
We'll find out for sure.
He posted
on the 12th.
Every day. I peruse a dozen or more sites, and they have a lot of the same subject matter and stuff. I think a lot of the high points are already out there. There's a great deal of expectation. If you Mark Gurman has some, he always has pretty accurate things to say. The fact that we've got USB-C, and that potentially it could be Thunderbolt as well. It'll take the USB-C form factor, but if it supports Thunderbolt, that'll be because the throughput is so much quicker with Thunderbolt as opposed to the generic USB-C. That could be have some implications and it wouldn't kind of be out of character, since Apple's kind of being forced by the European Union to go the USB-C connector route. Well, I could see Apple say, well, we got to do more than just that. If we have to do it, let's make it a Thunderbolt with a 40 gigabit throughput. And, and
there is talk that might be in the Pro models. And what that comes into is if you're transferring photos and things like that. But, it's USB-C is pretty fast on its own, but the great thing is it opens up to a lot of chargers. But even though it opens it up to a lot of different chargers, get a quality charger and quality cables, because you do not want to burn down your house. Okay. I mean, it really comes down to that. There is a lot of junk out there. It doesn't have to be an Apple charger, but for cables and stuff, you want it to be MFI, made for iPhone, or a higher
made for
end
iPhone.
one. And frankly, on Amazon, one of the ones I gravitate to is Anker, ANKER. They are good quality, and you pay only a little bit more. I mean, it's nothing. They last longer. They're made better. And the big thing is they're tested, because there is a lot of junk out there. And when you think about it, we are increasing the power to charge our devices. And man, I mean, and I mean, realistically, you don't hear about it a lot, but we're pretty lucky, but it's just not worth it. So
spend a little more, when you buy something with the MiFi. I mean, that's solid advice.
Yeah.
Costco now has Anker too.
I'm sorry?
Costco now, you can get Anker chargers and cable from Costco.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course Belkin and the stalwarts that have been in for a long time, they're good too. For me, Anchor just seems to be, well, actually, and I just bought a new Anchor device. In fact, I'll show it off here in a sec, but it's really cool for travel. So and Bob, you got any input? Randy, anybody? You guys read this stuff a lot too, so
I think you and Al covered pretty much what I've been seeing.
good. Randy? Oh, we woke him up, or we didn't wake him up.
He's muted.
All right, I'm gonna. Oh, was he talking? Because I was getting this other thing up, this Anchor thing.
No, all good. I think you, like Bob said, pretty well. You and Al both covered very, very well.
Great. So I'm going to show you on my screen here.
And there's a question in the chat to repeat the name of the museum down in Mountain View.
Oh, the Computer History Museum. And for us Tesla owners, they have a supercharger in the parking lot. But it's really, oh man, and I was privileged and lucky. I've been there twice. I was privileged and lucky to be there with hang on, I gotta fix something here. I went down there one time. When I went there was a thing called the Babbage, Babbage machine, and an early employee of Microsoft made it, cost millions of dollars. And it's the first computer that was designed by, I forget the guy's name, but Babbage in England. He had all the
Charles Babbage.
Charles Babbage, thank you. And he designed this and had it on paper, and people have taken his design and he never made one. And they made it, and they had one down there. And so this thing it's a semi takes it to get there, because this thing is 8 to 10 feet tall and 12 foot long at least. And it's a mechanical computer in that you set some dials and it will do calculus computations, and you turn the crank and it comes up with an answer. And that thing was just awesome. And but BABB, I believe, BABBAG. And then let's see here. And Al put the Computer History Museum in there. But anyway, the friend of mine that lives here in Sun City, who worked for Fairchild Semiconductor when semiconductors started, going through that museum, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. And it's like, I mean, he has been through since the old, where the IBM computers were on a truck, and it was huge, and all through to the current day. So I wish I had recorded it, but anyway, I'm going to share my screen with this device. So I travel a lot, and Anchor just came out with this new one. And this is slim. It has,
I've seen that. Yeah.
In fact, here I'll put the link in, and then you can clean it up if you need to. It went to everyone there. So I just happened to see it on Anchor on Twitter, and it has 2 USB-C. It has 2 regular USB, and the screen shows you the speed or the power that you're using on all the ports. And the big thing is it's 140 watts. So if you travel with a laptop and you won't need to charge your other devices, this is the one for you. There's another one that's less power if you just want to charge for iOS devices. But the beauty of this one is it also has, so you can plug in power cords to it. Now because it's slim, as you start to plug the power cord in it, the base of that comes out, so it's full depth. It's really, really good. And you can hook this up to an adapter. And if you're in Europe, you just put the European adapter on the end and it works great, but you would never plug in a hair dryer or anything. The only things you plug into the 110 at that point is the any of the little chargers you have that are that. So it's 109, but there's a 15% coupon on it. And it's really cool. I got it in and I was really impressed with it.
So you've used it, Ken?
I tried it out when we had our open lab down here. I just tried it out in fact, I told you about the lady that had a iPad that was that wouldn't power up. Well, she brought her charger with her and we tried it, but we thought, well, maybe it's the charger. So we took her cable and plugged it into the iPad through this thing. And when I did the hard reset on it, it worked. So yeah, no, it's really good. But I
Pretty
haven't
solid.
loaded up my laptop and the other, but actually, if you go down, I don't usually watch these, but a guy, is this the guy? Yeah, this guy's, let me make sure it's the guy.
Wow.
Yeah. This one, so because they had 100-watt version of it. And if you're not going to try charge a laptop, the 100-watt version will be just fine because you don't need the power split. Because what happened he does it right here. He had his laptop plugged in and it was getting 88 watts, whatever it is you need. And then he plugged in one iPhone and it dropped to like 44 or something. So it won't really do a good job of charging the laptop. But if you go to that page that I linked and go down here to the 9-minute and 43-second one, it really gives you what you need to know on this one, comparing it to the other one, because in fact, I don't want to get copyright hit on this. So let me just show you the thing. So he has this little USB plug-in that shows you what kind of power it is. So he has his MacBook Pro plugged into it and he's getting 88 watts, right? So that's plenty to charge it. Then he plugs in an iPhone and it takes a second. Oh, it's 40. Oh, yeah, 42. But this is the other one. This is the 100-watt. So he's only getting 42. See how I know it's the 100-watt? It doesn't have the
LEDs.
Yeah. Oh, I think he does it later. Yeah, he does that one and it's 42, just plugging in the iPhone. Now, if you go to the new one, this is good. So there it's giving you 120 to the alone to the laptop. And he plugs in the iPhone and he's still getting 111 to the laptop. So, or 150. And the little display can do different things. Anyway, that's it. That's probably more detail than we need, but I just really, and for $100 you need to know what's going on with it. But that his little video is, it made me hit buy right then. So, and it's Anchor. So, and it looks like it has a battery in it, but it does not. And I don't want it with a battery because then it would be too heavy. So, any questions on that stuff? Okay. Back to the iPhone. If you're going to get a new iPhone, you need to know how much storage you're using. So let's see, I might just do my phone and do the screen here. And I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to share my iPhone screen. Wow. Come on. Oh, great. Allow accessory to connect. Whoa, what's going on? Okay, well, let's unhook it. Try it one more time. It's not letting me hit allow. There we go. Ah, thank you. I will say, there we go. And this can go over here. Okay, so you guys can see my phone screen.
Yes.
Great. So what we want to do is go in and see how much storage space you're using on your phone and iCloud, because you don't need to, you want to make sure if you get a new phone that you have enough storage space 2 years from now. So if I go to settings and I go down to general, and you guys can follow, I'm going to do this slow enough so you guys can do it, and you can take a screenshot or you can write it down, but this is information you guys definitely need. So the gray gear, which is settings, mine happens to be on the home screen. If you can't find your settings, you hit the little search thing at the bottom and just start typing settings, and you get the gray gear. So that's it there for settings. Now, we're going to scroll down about 10 items down. You'll see general. Okay, speak up if you haven't gotten there, or forever hold your peace, right? Okay, so tap general, and then you go down to the 6th item, and it says iPhone storage. And it'll take a minute because it's going through and looking in your device. Essentially, this is looking at the solid state internal storage like you would have on your phone, I mean your computer. So up at the top, I'm using, and in fact, I was doing a lot more. I finally on my phone turned on iPhone Cloud Library because I hadn't before. So the nice thing is I'm using a lot less space than I need. I don't need the 1 terabyte phone anymore, but anyway. And it just shows you what you're taking up space. But the most important part is not what's taking up the space, it's how much of the available space you have. Your phone could be 64, it could be 128, 256, 512, or 1 terabyte, or the new iPhone 15 Pro or the Ultra, whatever it's going to be, Max, will have the ability for 2 terabyte. Part of the reason I finally uploaded my iPhone photos to the cloud was so that I could, I don't have to go to 2 terabytes, and 1 terabyte is going to be just fine. But when you go down from there, so here are some of the, I would say that if you're fine, as long as you're not in the, if you only have 20% less, you want to think about it. You might make some setting changes. But the other thing is you might need to get a bigger phone because you want to be, oh, my other hand hit that, sorry. So let's talk about what it is here. So this is apps. I have a lot of apps, and it's going to show us what they take up, and then different things in there. My photos take up hardly any room now at all because I finally put them on the cloud. Now, let me show you what that means is I'm going to go back to my iCloud photo library. I go to iCloud, and it tells me, it's going to tell me how much room my photos are taking up on my iCloud, okay? And it's taking a while.
Show us again how you got the iCloud.
I'll show you that in a sec. Let me just, because I don't want to back out of this. So I have 755 gigabytes of photos up on the cloud, okay? That's almost a terabyte because I don't go through my photos. But that's not just from this phone, that's from my big camera too. So how you get into iCloud, you go to settings, the gray gear, tap on your name at the top, and then tap on the 5th item, iCloud, And then you get, this is your iCloud. And it looks similar to the storage, which we're going to go back to in a second. But what this shows is, oh, the other big thing when you're here is make sure iCloud backup, when you tap iCloud backup, it says my last backup happened this morning at while I was asleep at 2:12 a.m. And what it says right at the bottom there is when not connected to Wi-Fi. Oh no, that's the cellular. So what happens is the way iCloud backup works is if you have it on, when your phone is connected to Wi-Fi, unless you have backup over cellular on, and I wouldn't normally do that because like when you travel and stuff, you might run into restrictions. So it should probably be off unless you're very rarely on Wi-Fi. By turning it off, your phone will need to be connected to Wi-Fi, whether it's at your friend's house, a hotel, whatever it is. If you're connected to that Wi-Fi and your phone is plugged into power, and then when the screen goes dark and it's essentially what they call locked, it will then back up to the cloud. It does not want to do it unless you're plugged in, because it doesn't want to waste your battery, because you might need that if you're getting ready to go out or something. But secondly, it doesn't want to do it over cellular because it can use a lot of your bandwidth. So again, in iCloud, it's iCloud backup, and then have it on the phone, and then it shows my 2 devices that are backed up to the cloud. Now, what's interesting here is my phone used to have 1.6 was its backup, because, or not quite 1.6, but remember I had 700 gigabytes of photos on the cloud. That's the full-size version of the photo. The phone now only has a smaller amount because it only stores the thumbnails on my phone, because the rest are on the cloud. So I'm not saving any, or I'm not changing the space requirement on iCloud, because before I used iCloud Photos, when it backed up my phone, it backed up all those photos full size. So they were in my backup. Now what's happened is they're in my iCloud photo library. They take up the same amount of room, but the beauty of it is it's lessened the amount of space they take up on my phone.
Ken,
Now
a question.
Concept. So I was just going to solicit questions. So go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, on mine, I'm looking at the same place you are, and at the bottom of your screen, all devices back up. I have Bev's iPhone with 4.2 gigabytes. Then I have another Bev's iPhone, 4 gigabytes. So I'm wondering if that is my old phone that didn't get taken away. I mean, I turned in the phone.
So tap on the phone, tap on that setting.
Okay.
And it says, when was the last backup?
5/17/23, which is when I bought my new phone.
So that would make sense. So, and how big is the backup?
4 gigabytes.
Which is almost what your current one is.
Yeah, which is 4.2. Yeah.
So absolutely. I mean, it's not a huge deal on your iCloud storage space, but yeah, you can delete it.
Delete and turn off backup. Okay, super.
Now stop a second. Look at my screen.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, let's say these had 2 that said Ken's iPhone Pro Max. You'll notice one says this phone.
Yes.
So, and some people may have a spouse or even a second phone in the house. So you go to that one and see which it is too. So it's a good way to always do it. And if I was doing this for my iPad mini, which is a mini 6, and that's another rumor that the mini 7 may come out. I hope it does. Maybe not on this event. But anyway, so yeah, you can do that, and that will give you iCloud storage space.
Yes, excellent, because the one that says this iPhone backed up yesterday, so I can safely get rid of the other. Super cleanup time. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. So you now have 4.5 gigabytes because all of that went into your new phone, and you're all good. So again, iCloud backups you should have on, and go from there. Now, again, where you turn on the photos, and I'm not encouraging you to if you haven't yet, but you'll notice here I have 755 gigabytes, and those are all now opened up at the cloud. I have 83,000 photos. I have way too many. And that's the problem. I'm traveling too much that I don't have time to go through the photos I take. But I have, and the other big one is I have 1,490 videos. So let's remember this 755 here. And we're going to go back. Oh, and by the way, optimize iPhone storage is what I've selected, because that means that the original 755 gigabytes don't live on my phone. Just the thumbnails are, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So I'm going to go back to iCloud. Any questions on the iCloud part of this?
Yes,
Go ahead.
when you were on the screen which showed iCloud backup, you had several devices listed, and the only thing I've got listed is my iPhone, but I'm pretty sure that I have my iPad set up to back up to the cloud too. Shouldn't that show up here too, like on yours?
It should. So there's two things that might, where that might not occur. If it's signed into a different Apple ID, or you don't have iCloud backup turned on in settings.
Okay, I'll check.
Yeah. And I can't think of another situation where that would be the case.
Okay,
And again, it's iCloud backup is what you want. So we'll go back to Apple ID settings. So now I'm at the first settings screen. Oh, Roy, go ahead. You got a question.
Yeah, it's the iCloud. It says unable to load storage information. So I can't see what I got.
Well, that's because all of us are checking right now. Yeah. Not really.
But can you go back from here? Just each click to get to the proper place.
Sure. So I'm on the main settings screen. Let's go back to Gray Gear settings.
Okay.
Tap your name. And then the fifth item is iCloud.
Oh, I didn't do the click my name. My wife had texted and it shuts off everything, voice
Sure.
and that. So, okay, now I'm
And
there.
you need to be connected to the internet, obviously. So
Yeah.
the other thing is, oh my gosh, look at what happened. Oh no, my photos are still taking up the same room on the cloud. Never mind. But you can also check this from your Mac, and it's in your iCloud settings. But
Okay.
and then it was the iCloud backup, and you just first off want to make sure it's on. But the big thing is it'll tell you when was your last successful backup. Now, if you were to hit backup now and you're not on Wi-Fi and you're not plugged into power, it will back up then. And once you've done your first big backup, everything else is just incremental. For instance, when I was traveling, even though I have an unlimited internet, well, actually, I got at T-Mobile gives you unlimited internet in 215 countries, but after you've used up 5 gigs or 50 gigs, whatever it is, they slow you down a little. So I didn't want to hit that barrier. So I would keep my phone in airplane mode unless I wanted to check something. Then I'd do cellular, but then I'd pop it back into airplane mode and use the Wi-Fi wherever I was.
I should have done that in France because it slowed down.
Or you
after a
can
few
get
days.
another SIM card too, but that's all part of my travel presentation. So anyway, in the upper left corner, I'll hit iCloud to go back to the main settings screen. Because remember, I had 755 gigabytes of photos. And if I go here to general, again, it's about 10 items down, and I click iPhone storage, you'll see that my photos only takes up 24 gigabytes on my phone. But all of those 83,000 photos and those 7,200 videos, or 1,200 videos, excuse me, are on my phone. But they're slightly degraded, and I'll show you what that means. So 24 is all it's taken up on my phone. It's 755 is what's my real amount. Okay. Now you can check your other apps. The Camera Plus app keeps some photos in there. Messages, I'm not using messages on the cloud. If you put messages is usually videos that you've sent or somebody sent to you, or actually somebody sent to you, or photos that sent to you. The messages themselves take up very little room, but you could do messages on the cloud and it would save you. If I did that, it would save me 15.32 gigabytes if I turned on messages on the cloud. And I probably should, but it's one of those things. But anyway, it's a way to housekeep and it goes on the cloud. So some of these others, these are stuff that's stored in there. But again, you know, they're in single gigabytes and stuff. Audible, I have my Audible books on there, my podcasts. Those I have quite a few. So, oh, and this is for Skydio, is the video from my my drone. So anyway, it shows you right there. And then offload unused app that I could save if I needed to save space. I could delete these 62.26 gigabytes of ones I've not used much. That's okay. And then I can delete old conversations. I personally, yeah, I'm not jonesing for more space because space is pretty, it's not that expensive on the phone. And I'm going to stick with, in fact, because I'm going to stick with the 1 terabyte phone probably going forward. Now, I will tell you, when your phone starts getting loaded with more data, though, it gets heavier. Not really. It doesn't change weight at all. So the other thing is you can go to About in the general setting. And when you go to About, you can see some other things like, yeah, see, I don't really have any songs loaded on there. There's my videos. There's my photos. There's my applications. And you can see kind of all the other stuff, but more than anything here, you can see. And I have available, and this is what is a big deal, is how much space do you have available on the phone? So if I lessened and went from a 1 terabyte down to a 512, I'd have what, 300 and something available, which isn't bad. So any questions on what to, and the reason I went through all of this is because when you go to order a new phone, just like on your Mac, when you go to order a new Mac, you need to know how much storage space you have. So I'm still on the phone, and what I'll do is I'll switch to the Mac and I'm going to show you the same stuff, just so, because we're in the same realm on that. And a lot of people like that 24-inch iMac is just gorgeous. So any other questions on storage on the phone and things? And just to point out, I'm going to go to just a photo. Actually, here was the other night at my house. So I tap on it, and sometimes it may take a half second to download the photo to your phone to look at it. So that wouldn't work if you were on a plane and weren't connected to the Wi-Fi. Let me go way back. I'm just going to pick any random photo because an older photo will probably not be on my phone. Here we go. I was at a car museum. So there, see, it went right up, and I can edit it. I can send it and do whatever I want. I can go in, it's in full resolution. So again, if you're connected to things. All right. So that's again, iCloud Photos or Sync. So I'm going to go back to the Mac. So let me unshare my phone. And again, nope, no questions. Good. Where is, oh, there's my bar up there. Okay. We'll go back to sharing my computer screen. And we'll go up to the Apple logo in the upper left corner of your screen and go to About This Mac. And when we click on About This Mac, I am on Ventura, so mine looks a little different than people that are on previous operating systems. Previous operating systems, it will already have a screen with information. But in the more info, it allows me to go in and look at my hard drive. So I click here on my hard drive, storage settings. I can expand this window. So you'll notice it looks very similar to, and those of you that have older OSs, you would have this little Macintosh HD, and if you had any external drives hooked up in there, that'll show right where it is. So, and I can say all volumes. Well, so there's the screen, how it kind of looks like to you guys. I have the coolest thing in this MacBook Pro 14-inch. I have a 1 terabyte SD card that sits flush with the computer. If any of you geeks are interested in that, talk to me after class. Anyway, there I have, so see, the other thing is, I don't have this one in the cloud because I have too many pictures here that would overwhelm my cloud storage space. This is not the cloud. This is my internal storage, essentially what my hard drive is. So you can see there, it's a lot of photos, which I need to go through, and documents, apps, and then smaller amounts. And I have a ton of mail, but it only takes up 52 gigs. This is a 2 terabyte machine. So when you go down here, so those of you on older OSs, you'll be able to see applications, documents, etc. So if I click on the the rest of you just click on applications, it shows you, and it sorts it by size, and it shows you what's taking up space. Now, obviously in applications, you probably don't want to get rid of them. So I'll hit done. But let's go into documents, for instance. A lot of times in documents, there's stuff that's not really documents that it's in there. So nothing large files. Downloads. So this was a transfer I did, so I can get rid of that. This was a bunch of photos that aren't in, well, they are in photos, but I dumped them off into something else. And here's some MP4, which I highlighted, and I just hit the space bar. Oh, that's one of my drone videos. That's our car for the Great Race, by the way. And that's up in Reno, Nevada, or Fallon, Nevada, and we ran out of gas. So I took the drone out. That was 3 years ago or 2 years ago when we were doing a test. But anyway, that's why that's a big file. So unsupported apps, there's none. And file browser, this just lets you see what big things are. My downloads is always really big because I just kind of make that a repository of temporary stuff. I don't send it to my desktop. Oh gosh, here's one that many of you may have, iOS files. Let's click on that because that's old. So this is weird, iOS 13.4. So if you've ever plugged your phone into your Mac, there will be this, like a backup, but also many times you'll see files that say IPA, which stands for iPhone app, because in the old days, in the real early days of the phone, it would back the apps up on your phone when it updated the app. I'm sorry, it backed it up on the computer when it updated the phone, and it kept old versions of IPA, iPhone apps. And if you have iOS files, you can get rid of any of that stuff. So that's 12 gigabytes that I'm going to highlight and say hasta la vista. Now, if it's like, oops, remember, it's in your time machine backup too. Okay. But, oh, question. Oh, Roy, that was a while back. It's still loading on yours, Roy. You might want to do a hard reset on your phone.
I did a reset.
A hard reset?
How do I do a hard?
Both volume up, press and release quick, volume down, press and release quick, press and hold the other button till you see the Apple logo. But the other thing is you may have a tough internet connection right now that would.
I got a good one.
Okay, well, don't know what to tell you then.
So go up, go down, go
well,
up.
and you can, but you can do it from, and you can do it from another device too, because your iCloud is your iCloud. So I'm not on the iCloud now. I'm looking at this space, and it's deleting those. It will be deleting those iOS files. These ones below in this lowest category, you can't really do anything about it. Other users would be if you have secondary users on your computer, like other people or friends that have visited that created an own user, things like that. Apple TV, that's just movies that I have probably I downloaded to the computer to watch. My photos on here, music creation, that's GarageBand, and again, messages. If I put messages on the cloud, I would have less of that. So anyway, that's just it. And this is what it looks like. In fact, let me move this up so people can see the whole thing. There we go. So again, it's in set, and you'll notice that it's no longer called system preferences. It's called system settings in Ventura, because this is looking very much how it looks in iOS.
Ken, what is system data? It's the biggest portion of all mine. It's even bigger than photos.
Yeah, I call it cruft. It's stuff that can take up room that might get cured when you do an update. It may be superfluous stuff. It may be real stuff. It's a potpourri, and they're hard to find, and you're not going to get any info on it here. So generally speaking, up in your bar up here, if it's taking up a significant amount, you probably need to reinstall your operating system, because it can be a lot of things. Oh, and while we're at it, I want to show you one place that takes up a lot. So I'm going to go to Apple Mail, and I have to bring it over to the screen. So let me just get in a mailbox that.
This is great, Ken. I just got rid of 300 gigabytes of podcast.
Well, good. Yeah, and podcasts, you can always get them again. So
yeah,
you know what? We'll go back to the phone, and I'll show you a trick on podcasts too. So I'm in my mail, and everybody should do this if you're using Apple Mail. Oh, good. Roy said hard reset worked. Great. Good news. So in Apple Mail, I go to Window, and I come down to Connection Doctor. And everybody should get used to Connection Doctor, because when you hit Connection Doctor, it tells you if the accounts are working or not. And so if you'll notice on my screen over here on the left, it's faint. Well, let me go back so you can see it. Right here, that one is not connected. That's our ski club email, and I share it with 2 other people, and we're messed up on 2-factor right now. But that little squiggly line means that it's not connected. Okay. So if I go back to Window and hit Connection Doctor, it shows me who's connected and who's not. And you can see there that Ski Club at LH Ski Club. Oh, well, now this is interesting. So incoming's not working, but outgoing is. So, but that's just all that. So IMAP, or some of you may have POP if you have an old account with things. IMAP and POP is incoming. SMTP is outgoing. Okay. So, but the big thing here on Connection Doctor is if you have Connection Doctor with a check mark on it. Please don't check it, whatever you do. Don't check login connection activity down here. If it's checked, I want you to click show logs and it will fire up a Finder window. I don't have any. Well, here, let's do it really quick. See if it made one. There it is. So it would bring up this window with a whole bunch of stuff on it. And I have seen people with 60 gigabytes in here, and you don't need it. This is a mistake with Apple that it fills up this connection log. What this connection log is used for troubleshooting if you're having issues with mail and you do not want it on. So it didn't create any data here, but I have seen people, I've freed up, they have a whole bunch of stuff in here. I freed up 100 gigabytes for many people. So let's go through that again slowly. I'm going to leave that up because I want to show that. Let's see here. So in Mail, across the top, you go to the word window. And when you click window, the connection, you click Connection Doctor. And at the bottom, if this is checked, don't uncheck it yet, but click Show Logs. And you might have tons of stuff here. And it'll tell you how many items and how big it is. So you don't need this at all. And the easy way to delete it is you highlight them all. And then the way to get something to the trash usually is hit Command, hold down Command and tap the delete key, and they just went to the trash. Okay, that will not delete mail or anything else. It is simply the log of your connection activity. In other words, this. And that's just there for troubleshooting. So if somebody was having trouble with their email, you could turn it on. But a lot of people, it's on by default. So if it's checked, you want to go into your logs and delete stuff. If there's a lot of stuff, if there's just a little bit in there, don't worry about it. And then when you're done deleting it, you turn it off. You do not need it. Any questions? Anybody have any big ones that was there when they did it?
I have a question, Ken.
Go ahead.
I periodically get the message from email that, they can't find my account and I have to go in and delete it and add it. So since I periodically have issues, if mine is checked and I have the log, should I keep it there for troubleshooting with Apple?
Well, now you said that it just says the account isn't there, right?
Yeah, like, well, I'll start to go to get my mail and it will come up and say, it's not the right password. And it is the right password because I haven't changed it. And in the past, what I've been told to do is just delete the mail account and go back and add it in. And it'll be fine for a long time and then it will happen again. So
what email, does it happen consistently on a certain email address?
It happens on Gmail and on AOL. It happens more on AOL, but it has happened on
Yeah.
both.
AOL, Yahoo, any of those not as good email services, that's a problem with them, not with your computer.
It's happened with Gmail too.
AT&T is the worst. AT&T, SBC, and Comcast is no better.
It's happened with Gmail a couple of times too, though.
Yeah. Well, I found that too. And part of the thing on Gmail is like I say, bits get scrambled. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if logging would help that, but if it happens a lot where you're having to do that often, then turn on log connection activity, but I just don't know if they'll be able to find anything on that.
Okay.
But remember, and this is the connection, which is what you're looking at. And then when it's all resolved or not resolved, then go in and delete them, but you don't want to leave it on.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Any other questions on that? Nobody had any big ones? I wanted to hear horror stories.
Okay. I had my mute on. Ken, when I go into my show logs, I don't understand what I'm seeing.
No, you don't, you're not trying to see it. You're seeing if you have it, and if you have it, get rid of it because it can take up tons of room on your hard drive.
How do I see again? How do I see if it's taking up tons?
In the lower right, show log files, I think it says.
I have show logs.
Yeah, here, hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, show logs. Click show logs.
Yeah,
And
and
it-
then logs and then mail.
Yeah, and are there a bunch of files there?
Just about 6 lines. A lot says like IMAP.
What's the
Gmail.
biggest file? How
Uh,
much?
I don't know how to see how the size of it is.
Put it in list view.
List view. It's in list. Well, it says like just click on one.
Should say size on the right, or you could click on one and hit Command I.
He hasn't got there yet, I think, Ken.
No, she's got the Finder window open, she said.
Finder window, and
She has
then
a list of files in the Finder window.
yeah, it said mail and says diagnostic in a mail. Then there's like IMAP, Gmail, IMAP.
Oh,
And
are those folders?
They're little. I can't figure out what the icon is.
You want to
So-
share your screen?
How do I do that?
Tell you in a second, and if you don't mind, it's just going to
No.
show that stuff. So let me go ahead, find your Zoom,
Yeah.
get on Zoom, click on your dock,
Yep.
get on Zoom. And I mean, this is not just for you, this is instructive for everybody, so I think it's important. So at the bottom of the screen in the middle, do you see a share screen green button?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now from this point forward, don't click unless I say, because there might be some other screens come up. Are you running Ventura or something prior to that?
Is it Monterey, the one before?
Okay, no problem. So click the green button that says share screen.
Yeah, I already had done that. Okay, so
Okay, a brand new,
desktop one.
don't click unless I say, please,
Yes.
absolutely, because I have to use my photographic memory to know where you are. So click share in the lower right corner of that new window that popped up.
Okay. Allow
And
Zoom
it's-
to share your screen.
Yes,
So open system preferences.
correct. So now, again, here, this is really critical. Click open system preferences. This
Okay.
is one time to share your screen because it's security. In that window that you have, that's a system preferences window. It's the left side is 1/3 wide, the right side is 2/3 wide. In the lower left corner, you'll see a gold or yellow padlock.
Yes.
Click the padlock one time.
Done.
Enter your computer password and hit enter or return or unlock.
Use password. And the
Your computer login password.
is that the one you use every time to wake it up?
The computer login password, yes.
Okay. So
And did it unlock the padlock?
yeah, maybe I did the wrong one.
Okay,
So-
well then if we don't have your password up, then we're gonna move on and we can do this
Okay.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Try it one more time and just.
Well, I
Yeah.
get confused between the two passwords. I
well,
know. I
it's the one
should
you wake from sleep, the same one you wake it from sleep.
Okay. All right. Let me do that. Okay. I must have done a typo. Oh, well,
Is the padlock unlocked? Is the
It's
padlock,
just, well, I'll get with you at some point.
okay. All right, we'll go
Thanks.
back. Yep. So anyway, that's just what it is and the storage, because the other thing applies on your Mac. Now you should say, I'm actually getting down here into area that you don't want to do. If you have a spinning hard drive in particular, but also on a solid state a little bit, you always want to have at least 10% storage space, especially on a spinning hard drive. Because what happens is if your hard drive gets too full and it's a spinning hard drive, just going on websites and stuff puts all these little temporary files in. And those temporary files are there, but if there's no room for them, it won't work. But secondly, it's trying to find these little nooks and crannies. It has to look all over the disk to find spots where it can put part of a file here, part of a file there. It's like, it's not linear. In other words, it finds these spaces. So if you are less than 10%, you're critical that you need to do something. In my case, I'm on a solid state drive, so it's not as bad. But in mine, I'm going to manage my photos a little differently, and I'm going to clean up my library in big chunks, and then I'm going to put it on the cloud too. It's not on the cloud currently. So, and then that'll reduce it, because remember, so I have in photos, I have 1.4 terabytes here. Remember, I had 755 terabytes on the cloud, and most of these are there already, but not all of them. But the idea is that it reduced it on my phone to what, 24 gigabytes is all. So on this computer, it would take that 1.4 terabytes and bring it down to maybe 50 or 60. So
Hey, Ken?
that's how I'm going to fix that. And that's just, and again, you need to know, like I'm using 176 terabytes of 2 terabytes. So if I were to replace this computer, I better get at least a 2 terabyte drive. Okay. So you want to look at this on yours, and if you get a new iMac, and the other thing is, so many people say, I'm going to get a new computer, but I'm going to clean up everything on my computer first. And that's bad, because what happens is you can get rid of the stuff, crap, the pictures you took of the Costco, and even just deleting a few photos isn't going to do much. It's the videos and some of the other stuff. But I'm just trying to see here. Why am I delete? Go. Oh, there we go. We didn't get that before. So anyway, and there it freed up, a little bit of mine. But you don't clean up your stuff when you're going to migrate over to a new computer, because inevitably you're going to get rid of something that you really need, and that wouldn't be good. So that's the thoughts about new phones. iPads don't usually, most people don't store as much stuff on their iPads, so they're not as critical, but you want to just check all of that stuff on all your devices and see.
Randy has a question in the chat.
Is Connection Doctor available? No, Randy. Is Connection Doctor available for the iPhone or iPad? No. I don't think there's an equivalent to it, because it's actually part of Mail, and Mail and that is different. So what usually happens is, if you have an account that's misbehaving in Mail, when you pull down, you get a little message at the very bottom of the screen saying, yeah, that you need to go to settings and stuff. But good question. All right. So I'm a huge fan of T-Mobile. I always hate recommending things, because certain people might not get, it's like, even Tesla I'm reluctant to, but in the 30 people that I know that have bought Teslas, only one person wasn't happy, and that's not a bad ratio, and that was a whole different issue anyway. But T-Mobile, the majority of people that I know have gone to T-Mobile they love it and really embrace it, and their customer service is good. But anecdotally, you may have certain spots that don't work well. T-Mobile's coverage is by far much better than AT&T. T-Mobile's coverage is approaching, in rural areas, what Verizon offers. And Verizon, in many instances, still has got it there, but they're having to make some adjustments because they've lost what's called CDMA with Verizon. So, check it just anecdotally, and that's what usually cell phone coverage is. When we were on, I went down to Monterey, Pebble Beach for the concourse down there, and this one car that a friend of mine used to own the car, and it was in the Pebble Beach thing, and they took the little tour that goes from Pebble Beach to Big Sur and back. Well, they were about an hour late. So I took my car and went out to try find them because we suspected that they broke down and they were where there's no cell phone, because along by Big Sur, there's not very good coverage. So I went out and sure enough, I found them. And at that point, I didn't have cell coverage either. Neither did they, neither did the CHP. His radio barely worked, but they had called them a wrecker. So anyway, they're getting ready on the wrecker. So the owner of the car gets in the wrecker. The other 4 people get in my car, excuse me, other 3 people get in my car, and we start going. And everybody with Verizon is still trying to wait till we get coverage and everything. But I had coverage 2 miles in T-Mobile, 2 miles before the rest of the people. But I want to point out, the people with iPhone 14s or newer, they could have used the SOS satellite feature. So your phone, if you're out, this has nothing to do with T-Mobile. It has to do with a 14 or newer phone, that there's a capability to communicate by text in an emergency situation to a satellite. And you will see none of your bars, none of your Wi-Fi, and then there'll be a little satellite in the upper right corner, and it'll say SOS. And that allows you to do SOS. And Al, I'm sure, will be linking how the iPhone satellite thing works. But we did it when it first got introduced, but it would have worked in that situation, even though it wasn't a dire emergency. This was an emergency non-thing, and you don't get charged. Apple gave us 2 years of free with it, but they would have communicated by text. And what it is it says point it at the satellite, point this direction. Okay, there you are. And they ask you questions, and they send your location and a short message. And it may take 2 or 3 minutes for it to get there, but then it goes to someone else, not on satellite. It goes to them via text. Anyway, that's kind of here nor there. Roy Chastain first, and then Dennis.
Since you have this up, the mobile hotspot rang a bell. I used to use that when I would lose my regular internet, with power outages. This last one, it doesn't show up. And I just checked it again. I don't see it when I go to Wi-Fi.
On your phone?
Yeah.
So you go to General, and then you don't go to Wi-Fi, you go to Settings, and it's in the cellular banner. It's like the 7th item down, Personal Hotspot. Right below cellular. You have that?
I must be on the wrong thing. So let me
go to your
back.
phone. Go to your phone, go to the main settings page where you have your photo on the top. Don't touch it.
Okay.
And go down to the 6th item, and it should say Personal Hotspot.
Okay.
Right under cellular.
I'm in the wrong place. So let me go back to the very beginning. Settings. I'm in.
And then just go straight down to Personal Hotspot under cellular.
No, do I go to General?
No.
Oh, there it is. Personal Hotspot. Okay, there it is. And I have allow others to join. I have my thing, maximum capability.
And it just needs to be on, and then you connect your other devices to it via Wi-Fi to your phone. Your phone has to be on cellular, not Wi-Fi, because your phone can't be receiving Wi-Fi and sending back out on Wi-Fi.
Okay, so what I do is I go up to Wi-Fi and turn it off?
No, you turn Personal Hotspot on, and then your other device, when it connects to it, will take it off Wi-Fi and it'll be on cellular, or turn Wi-Fi off. Well, no, you don't want Wi-Fi off.
I used to get
I used to
get my hotspot.
I used to get my Wi-Fi to connect with your other device.
Okay, I used to get a hotspot as an option. It never shows up.
Well, if it's on and your other device has Wi-Fi on, it should. If not, do hard resets on both of them. It worked for your other thing.
Well, I've done a hard reset, so it should work.
Well, but you have it on the device you're trying to connect to it.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, a hotspot means You're trying to connect an iPad or someone else's phone or a laptop to the internet through your phone. That's what a
Yeah.
hotspot is. It's
Yeah.
tethering.
Well, I get my neighbors as options, I don't want that, but I want to be able to see my hotspot, and it no longer does that.
Wait,
It
what do you
used
want
to.
to see your hotspot from?
Well, when I lose my
No,
internet,
no, no. Okay. Hold on. Are you talking about hooking your Mac to your phone via the hotspot?
no, just my phone. Well, yes,
No, your
yes,
phone's
yes.
already
My
your phone's
Mac,
already connected to
yes.
cellular. Your phone
My Ma-
can't be a hotspot for itself.
Yeah, no, it's when I want. Okay, I've been looking at this wrong because I
So-
do
so-
see personal hotspot on
So
my.
and it's a good
MacBook.
thing to bring up. So what happens is a hotspot is your phone can receive Wi-Fi signals or cellular signals. Did you guys lose me?
Oh,
Oh,
you're
good.
still there.
Because all of a sudden Wi-Fi went off on my phone. And I'm going, oh God, did my internet go out? Okay, good. It's up. It was because I was on that page. So what happens is a hotspot is the way it works is your phone can receive data by Wi-Fi or by cellular and cellular towers. Okay. So those are the 4 upright bars. The Wi-Fi is like Wi-Fi at your home. But let's say you're away from your home, there's no Wi-Fi, you're in a park somewhere, and you want your laptop or your iPad that don't have cellular connectivity to be able to get on the internet. Your phone, obviously there's no Wi-Fi there, so your phone's off Wi-Fi. So you turn on personal hotspot. And what that means is it takes the information coming in over the cell towers to your phone and it stays on the internet, but it also becomes a new Wi-Fi beacon. And that new Wi-Fi beacon with a certain password will allow your Mac or an iPad or someone else's Mac or iPad to connect to your Wi-Fi via Wi-Fi, but then the phone is a repeater that then goes out on the internet for you and finds it. Your phone essentially becomes a Wi-Fi router. Okay, so that's how that happens. And T-Mobile, that's when they say tethering or hotspotting, you get a certain amount of that over cellular, and with different plans, you get more of it. So that's how that works. And the perfect example of that is you're at somewhere where they don't have Wi-Fi and you want to get on the internet on your laptop. You go on the internet via Wi-Fi to your phone with hotspot, and it becomes the repeater that gets you on the internet. So that's the full internet discussion. We're going to move on. So Dennis Irwin, go right ahead.
Yeah, I can. I've been using T-Mobile for several years and really enjoyed it. And I was enjoying the $10 discount for auto pay. For those of us enjoying that, we'll have to switch from credit card payment to a bank account payment or lose that.
Which absolutely sucks. So what he's talking about is per line, you get a $5 discount if you do auto pay versus, you paying it each month. So auto pay is a no-brainer. But we used to be able to do it with a credit card. And, T-Mobile got smart and said, well, we're paying 2.5% for every credit card that gets done. We're going to cut that off. Well, the problem is, for me and many people I've counseled over the years is if you pay your T-Mobile bill with a Wells Fargo credit card, they provide $600 worth of cell phone insurance for
Exactly.
the first 4 lines. So yeah, that absolutely sucks. But I got to say, there's so many other positives of T-Mobile that I'm just going to have to not like it, but I'm going to live with it because the alternatives are worse.
Yeah, me too. I switched.
Yeah. So, and it's a sad point, and I'm glad you brought it up because people need to know that. So existing customers obviously already knew it. And you can use a debit card, which is not usually recommended, or you can have it be a straight bank, or you can sacrifice $5 per line and not do auto pay. So those are your choices, unfortunately. Thanks for
On
bringing it up.
that-
Well, thanks
on
for
that-
rubbing sand in my wound, you know?
But
Sorry
Rick,
about
one thing to beware of, I tried to set up the debit card, and because it's a Visa debit card, it wouldn't accept it, at least at the beginning. So
Oh, interesting. Did it finally or not?
I can't remember. I think I just got frustrated and put it
Well,
in
the
bank
other thing I
account.
might recommend is the stores are good for that. And the T-Mobile, find one of their corporate stores
Right.
or call them on the phone.
Actually, the corporate
And it's
store,
amazing because they have great, I mean, T-Mobile's customer service is great and you're talking to people in the US.
by the way, don't bother to go even to the corporate store because they tell you to call. Because that's
Oh.
what I did. And
Or
so-
that's what they do is they call.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. And was that Barbara I just answered?
Oh, that was Mary.
Okay, go ahead, Barbara.
My question is, I'm looking at your screen and what it looks like under the essentials plan is that you get certain things, but at a lower speed than if you go to a higher plan. So my question is, are the speeds that are listed under the essentials plan basically adequate?
Well, yeah, first of all, the majority of us are over 55. So T-Mobile has a whole nother 55 plan. This is only up here right now to show because T-Mobile is embarking on a thing very similar to Apple's upgrade program, where you can go in and get a new phone every year or 2 years, and it's kind of rolled into your bill kind of thing. So this is not all of T-Mobile's plans. There's gonna be a lot of advertising about the Go 5 Plus, but frankly, I don't necessarily, the Go 5s, any of the Go 5 plans, what they are is they're basically buying the phone and subsidizing it in the plan. So look at these fully. I just wanted to make sure this stuff was up there. But military and over 55 have other plans, but they have, in fact, we can go to their site. There's essentials and T-Mobile. And if we go to plans, unlimited phone, there, and then they have over 55.
Okay.
So age 55, how many phone lines would you like? We'll put it at 2. Age 55. And then here's see, now they're Go Next. Oh man, do they not have, there's essentials. That's for 2 lines, 55 a month. And that usually, let's see, that's with the auto pay discount plus taxes and fees. And when you go to these other plans, so this one would be taxes and fees included. And then they start including some other perks. Like in this case, you get Netflix. So if you're a Netflix user, you get the lowest level of, you get 2 screen within a household on that. So I think that's like $13 a month that you're saving right there. And they just pay your bill for you. Some other things. I'm on a grandfathered plan here. Let's actually hit more plans. So, they still have the Magentas, which it would be good. So those are something to look at, Magenta and Magenta 55 plus.
Okay.
So I encourage you to go to Clark Howard's website. And if you just Google clark.com and then space cell phone plans, you'll see the different ones because he has staff that goes through and analyzes all these things. And the Go 5 plan is more about upgrading your phone, where the other ones are more like plans where you buy your phone, or they still have it where you can pay for it over 24 months, 24 equal payments and stuff like that. And it's just similar to the Apple upgrade plan is what it is. And everything's going to be on 5G anyway. So don't look at the shiny 5G logo there and think, oh my gosh, that's going to be better for me.
Okay, that's great, Ken. Thanks.
So since we're on T-Mobile, I want to go show you one other thing, and I'm using it right now, and I'll even do a test here in a second. So Oh. If I'd have typed right. So this is T-Mobile Home Internet. So it's normally, and you can hit check availability, and I did, and it wasn't available. I've been waiting for this because I have about 6 clients I put on it and they love it and it's been great. But a buddy of mine that lives a block away went to the T-Mobile store and he says, oh, just ask them, they'll let you can get one. So I went to my local, even a non-corporate store, and he says, okay, you can grab it. And I was concerned because my phone at my house normally has about 2 bars. And so the service for this is, if you have a T-Mobile Max plan, it's $30 a month with auto pay. If you have any other T-Mobile plan, it's $40 a month. And if you're not a T-Mobile customer, you get unlimited internet for $50 a month. And that's great when you consider what the prices are out there. So I'm going to risk this and go to speed. And so I always recommend cable. And in fact, I've had this for tomorrow. It'll be exactly a week. And I hooked it up to my router and everything else. And my Wave broadband, which is your guys' equivalent of Xfinity that we have up here, I was paying, it was $107 a month for just 100. Well, I was paying for 100, but the speed has been 150. So now we're hooked into my T-Mobile. You can see here it's connected to T-Mobile. And, oh no, I don't want them to. And I only have 2 bars on my phone, and it says I'm not eligible. And you get this device, you don't pay anything for the device. They want your ID if you're already a T-Mobile customer. But the deal is you can try it out for 15 days. If you don't like it, you can take it back. And I have not gotten, so my Wave broadband, I check it 5 to 10 times a day because I'm really trying to see if I'm so close to canceling my Wave broadband for 2 reasons. But anyway, that's 213 down and 18 up. And this is middle of the day, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty
I was
solid.
getting the top of 150 on my cable internet. Now, some of you may get more than that. The other things to look at are ping times and stuff. But part of the reason I'm looking at, I looked at this as a possible stopgap measure, because if I cancel when I go on a long trip, and I should have done it before my last trip, if I cancel Wave for 90 days, I come back as a new customer and I'd be paying $25 a month instead of 107. So the slowest I have recorded was 83, and that was one time. And the rest of the time I've not had under 150, and 150 is the max I was getting with Wave. Now, yours may vary. Remember, this is coming over the cellular network, and it depends on where you position it in your house, and it depends on where you are in relation to the tower. But again, like I said, I'm amazed because it's awesome. So questions on that? I heard somebody, I think Roy started to ask. Somebody did.
Pretty impressive.
Anyway, what? Go ahead.
No,
Oh.
pretty impressive.
So you just get this little box here, and the way to test it out for those 15 days, you don't hook it up to everything else. You just have it be a little standalone box here. They direct you where you do it. You get an app on the phone, and you just connect by Wi-Fi or Ethernet direct to it. Don't mess up your network or anything. And I'm sold, and this has nothing to do with T-Mobile Cellular. I mean, I'm sold on them for other reasons, but I just think that it's faster, and I'm paying a lot less. I'm paying $40 a month because I have a T-Mobile line. I don't have a Max. I would have had to done all my Max lines. So
Ken, this
Yes.
is Lisa. And this is, I think I'm going to ask a stupid question, but oh well.
Well, then everybody else is wondering the same thing.
So this replaces what I've got in my phone box somewhere from Consolidated Communications. So because my router stays the same, my network would stay the same. So I'd still have my 2.4, my 5, and my guest networks available to me.
That's not a stupid question. That's a great question and a knowledgeable question. So if you have your own router, now
Yeah.
there's modems and there's routers. Many times they're combined. The modem is what's used to modulate and demodulate the signal that comes in over the phone lines or over the cable line. And that changes it into what you can use. And sometimes they have a router in and sometimes you have a phone in there and stuff like that. And then if you have a separate router, the great part is, in fact, what I just did, and it made it easy for me to test it. I tested it for 2 days just on Wi-Fi to make sure I might want to switch. And then I simply took the router, or I'm sorry, the Ethernet plug out of my modem from Wave and put it in this, and it works great. There's some other little tricks that you might need to do, but it's been working perfectly, as you can see from the throughput, and you don't have to change any of your Wi-Fi passwords or anything else. But I encourage you to, just before you go through that rigmarole, test it out with Wi-Fi, because you may find in the house where it's better in certain spots, because you can log in and see, and actually on the screen of it, it shows you how many bars it has. And mine, I think, is at 3 or 4 bars. Mine is actually very good, and I thought it wouldn't be. But yeah, I mean, and your way of doing it is perfect, but try it first, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And if it works, then hook it in and then try that for a thing. You know, I'm gonna definitely do it, but probably this coming week, I'm gonna cancel my Wave, because I can always get it back if I need to. I'll be in no worse, and I will probably be in a better situation, but I'm stoked.
So just, sorry, I always need to go over things twice. Yeah, my modem is somewhere in that phone box. So I've got my own router, and I've got the Ethernet that comes, goes into a phone jack and then into my router. So the only difference would be is I wouldn't hook it into the phone jack. I'd hook it into this device.
So your router has Ethernet that hooks, yours is a wall outlet, right? It plugs into the wall on one end and into your router on the other end.
Correct.
You do one of two things, depending on how convenient it is. You can take it, unplug it from the wall, and plug it in. There's actually 2 Ethernet jacks on the back of this. So then you just plug it into this, and you need to power cycle both of them, but it should work just fine. Otherwise, if your other end on the wall is a long ways away and you put this near your router, just get a brand new Ethernet cord that's 2 or 3 foot long, and you can just do it. But basically, all you're doing is changing the Ethernet that goes to the router to be from this rather than the other.
Okay.
And then you have this Wi-Fi, and it'll be a weird name or something, and leave that. Don't make any changes yet until you're sure. And then you still have your other Wi-Fi network, which you will maintain. And then but you want to test it first, because not everybody's, I'm surprised I had success. I'm very surprised, but not everybody's going to have the same success.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, is to be able to test it, because I don't want all my network going down and then, oops.
No, so you see here, there's try it worry-free for 15 days.
Yeah.
And this is at tmobile.com/ISP is what I think I put in for internet service provider. So, and again, try it first. And the easiest way is just get it and then just do a speed test from your phone. And I should point out that there's a phone app you go to speedtest.net, not com.
Right.
This company, Ookla, has an app, Ookla, and you just keep testing it. But you want to be next to it too, because you don't want the Wi-Fi and your distance from it in your house to be variable.
Right.
But Ken, what are you looking at? What on the numbers for the download and the upload? What's a good number?
So, well, download and do your existing system so you know what's going on, and do it at different times a day. So I was 150 was the max, and I would get between 125 and 150 with cable. Cable's very stable. if you're on DSL, this is going to be at the best maybe 20, and it will vary. If it rains, it's going to be slower. It's really bad. DSL is terrible. It can't even really legitimately be called broadband now. Then this little thing called ping. Ping is the time. It's like if I go and request a website and say apple.com, it pings a little thing out to it and pings it back. That needs to be under 100. And mine has been consistently around 30. It's at 40 now, but I don't know that that's really a delay. The higher that number is, there's a slight delay. So download is what we most want because that's looking at web pages and things like that. Upload, if you're sending an email, it doesn't really matter. If you're sending a big file or a big attachment, or you're syncing with the cloud, upload means a lot. But this is actually with Wave, I was getting 125 to 150 down, and I would get 3 to 10 up, and up is always less. If you're on fiber, these are both the same. If you have fiber, they usually are the same. Sometimes up will be faster. Then the other thing is called jitter, and we'll do that again. And jitter is just kind of the interference-y kind of, oh, they don't even show jitter here. It does on the phone. So, oh, that's because I'm probably hardwired. So that's your Wi-Fi jitter. But yeah, see, it's pretty darn consistent. And on the phone, the thing goes above 100. It goes up to that. But
So,
all right,
so look, I
Mary,
have,
go ahead.
yeah, so my download is 772 and my upload is 17. So
772, you're on Xfinity?
772. Yes.
Oh, 7.72.
No, 772 download.
Right. So you have a gigabyte plan probably.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
And this if you're very strong in this might get close to that. But at some point, I have run my life. I used to have 50 and I was happy with it, but they canceled the 50 plan. I was happy with 100. It's at some point, a lot of that's overkill. It's nice, but I'm saying just do this. But if you're near a T-Mobile site, you're going to be 500 or something, but I doubt you're going to get 772. But what the thing to do is when you're trying it out, load some web pages and see if there's a big difference. And watch some movies, see if there's a big difference.
May I interject some, Ken?
Yeah.
On that, when you get the go screen, it'll show which server that you're going out to check your speed from. You can hit that change server. If you go farther and farther away from your own location, that's the speeds are going to decrease. So,
well, it usually tries to find, and you want to have it be fairly consistent. Yeah, I agree.
Like I just ran one going to San Francisco race communications. I'm 433 down and 41 up. But if I went to Xfinity right here or Comcast right here in Sacramento, it might approach what Mary just got.
Oh, hang on.
So basically the 772 is fine.
No, that's great.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
It's how much you're paying.
Yeah, I get that, but
so especially if you have DSL and you're on AT&T, you guys need to look at this.
yeah.
Bev, go ahead, and I'm over you guys, and I apologize.
Well, this is still on kind of the same thing because I just did the speed test from the app on my phone. I have SureWest consolidated, and oddly enough, my download said 94 megabytes per second, and my upload's 93.5.
So you're on fiber with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're both about the same.
Okay.
Fiber's always that way, and there's no way in the world you'd have DSL at that speed.
Oh,
so
no.
Didn't they become Fidium?
Yeah. Well, I haven't gone over. My neighbor did. It was actually, I didn't need the higher speeds. This is adequate for me. And it was going to cost a little bit more to do the change over to their plan. But my question is back because I've toyed with the T-Mobile. I've been a little overwhelmed about you know, what if everything gets goofed up? When using the T-Mobile 5G thing, because I'm hardwired, I do Wi-Fi plus hardwire to all my computer spots in the house. Does that you don't use the hardwire part of it then? It all is wireless?
No, to test it, I said just use the Wi-Fi. It has two ether. So you have from them, is it a modem router combination or is your router separate? You have like a Netgear
they have
or
the box outside. I think the modem is in the box outside where it comes in. Then I have
and then you have a
hardwire that
router in
comes
the house.
and it hooks into an Eero.
Right. So all this would do is you would no longer, just like we explained just a little bit ago,
Yeah.
is you can take the plug out of the wall
Yeah.
and plug into one of the two ports on this, or if it's right by it, just plug it in direct. But what I recommend before you do any of this is test it, just have it stand alone right there. And if you're near it, the Wi-Fi is going to be fine to test it. You're going to want to go hardwire, and it allows you to go hardwire, no problem.
Okay.
It replaces what is on the other side of your wall, and your router stays where it is. That way you don't have to change anything.
Yeah. Yeah, my router, this is getting into the weeds. My Eero is in kind of a little closet box built-in cabinet in a closet.
That only affects the Wi-Fi, and we're a little too late. We kind of need to get moving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right. So go ahead.
You may remember several months ago, we shifted to what am I trying to say?
We put the T-Mobile in at yours, right?
We did.
Because you were on DSL. This is Charles Murphy.
Yes, but you know, I'm still only getting 2 bars, and I just did a speed test on my iPhone. It was 31. I called T-Mobile, and most of the time it's from the West Sacramento tower. I called T-Mobile and they said there's nothing they can do about it. It's just location.
Well, now you're getting what, 20 you said, or 30?
31, yes.
But you were getting 2.
I was getting 20 from Consolidated.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, on their DSL? Well, one thing I would do is reboot your router and the T-Mobile thing. But yeah, there are towers closer than West Sacramento.
Well, that's the closest one I get.
Well,
and sometimes I get the Oakland tower.
Oh my God. Oh, you're talking about a speed test?
Yes.
Oh, no. That doesn't, excuse me. That only is the place that speed test is going out to get it from. You're getting it from a tower for T-Mobile that's nearby you. So when I go here and I say this and it says Rancho Murrieta, that's not my cell tower. That's just the place. So what happens is, to make this check, it needs to find a server somewhere to give it information, and it downloads a file from that server. And then this is checking how fast it takes to download that file.
Well,
don't worry about what it says in the lower right. That again, it'll probably pick the same one, but that is your speed, but that's not what your T-Mobile gateway is seeing. You're seeing a much more local thing. In fact, Zeta Broadband has nothing to do. They don't have a T-Mobile tower there or anything.
Okay. Well, I called T-Mobile and they ran some tests and said that's the best they can do in this location.
Yeah. And the other thing is, because I remember when we set yours up, they had a location in there. So sometime, and that's because it's cell coverage. Many times it has to do with foil-backed insulation, what the house is like next door, but there might even be better places inside your house.
I've taken my router all over the house.
The router or the gateway?
The gateway from
Okay.
T-Mobile, and I put it close to the windows. I now have it high up in a shelf about 5 feet away from a window, and it's as I say, I called T-Mobile and they said that's the best they can do.
Yeah. Well, it is unless they install another tower. So it's pretty much equal to what you were getting with Consolidated.
A little bit of a faster.
Yeah. And less money, right?
Yes.
So,
So should I live with this or should I try to go to Infinity or some other?
well, do you feel like pages are loading slow for you?
Yeah, it's better than it was.
Well, and then, I mean, yeah, cable is great. I mean, look at Mary was getting 772 and cable, like I was getting 150, and I'm lucky because I'm getting better speeds than you and I didn't anticipate it. But it's you would definitely, and you'll pay more, but if you want much faster internet, in your case, yeah, cable's the way to go.
Well, we don't have cable in this part of town.
Oh, there's not. Oh, well then, yeah, then the only other choice, Verizon offers the same thing, and I don't know where their towers are. They might have a free trial on that too, but the prices are about the same. So even though I'm not a fan of Verizon, it might be an alternative for you. But I mean, I used to live on 50 and I always thought it was fine. You're on about 20 something. Yeah, I don't know.
31.
I'm looking at
Unless Consolidated offers fiber, then that would be the deal for you.
They don't offer fiber in this. This is an old part of town and they
Yeah.
put fiber installed.
Bob, what were you going to say?
say he's near Kirby and Sunrise. I'm looking at him on
Yeah.
the map.
Yes.
Yeah, he's across from the A&W by the, what's that, Nugget Market or whatever there. And he's you're not quite down in that little dip there, but you are a little bit.
Yes.
That's weird.
Yeah. All righty. Anybody else?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for everything today, Ken.
Well, thank you. And
See you in a little bit.
set your reminders in your calendars and we'll see you guys. Is one good enough or do we need to bump it back to 115?
One's fine.
One's
Okay.
fine.
I'll see you at 1.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. I'll hang around for a minute here if anybody else had any quick questions. As long as they're quick. Oh, let me unshare my screen.
And I have a very quick question, I think.
Quick questions lead to long answers, but go ahead.
When I plug my phone in at night to charge it, it does something different than when I plug it in during the day. It says it's going to optimize charging and it'll be finished at 5:30 in the morning. And maybe I actually want my phone before 5:30 in the morning. I don't know why it does that, and I don't know where to change it.
Good question, because I've had mine come up a few times like that. And what it's saying, so do you leave before 5 in the morning?
No.
Then it'll be charged up fully at 5 and not worry about it. But I would say only if it's really low would you worry about it. What it's trying to do is increase the lifespan of your battery by not getting to 100% and sitting at 100%, which will decrease the battery life. I don't do that because I trade my phone in every year, so my battery's great. On the other hand, I treat my Tesla like that. I'm very careful about how it charges and things because it's a much more expensive battery and I don't trade it in every year.
Okay, and that's the reason it does it at night. It figures that I'm not going to use it for a long time.
Right, and batteries don't like to sit at 100% charged. They degrade, and what degrading means is they will lose the amount of power they can provide to you, not as far as strength, but as far as, it'll go down from 10 hours of probably 15 hours of battery life to 14 at some point. So it's the degradation. In the cars, it's less range between when you have to charge.
Okay, yeah, the only time it's an inconvenience is that I want to unplug it because I use my phone as my alarm and I want to unplug it and take it into the bedroom and it's still charging, but I can work around that.
Yeah, and I think there's a way if you Google it. I just can't right now. So
Yeah, it's okay.
okay. And
that's
Peter had a question, but he put his hand down. So all right, I will talk to you guys later and have a great